All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have high-profile VIPs, celebrities here again tonight. Tonight for Mr. David Grauwels up on the
Good
left,
evening.
because he's in Europe and you are 6 hours ahead. Are you tired?
Tiredness is coming around the corner. Yes.
Yeah. And we have on the bottom Mr. Niklas Hemlin, and he is only, no, you're 3 hours behind where I am at.
Yeah, I'm in Phoenix. So we just wrapped up training, and it's only 3 p.m. here. So I'm kind of winding down, but I'm not at all close to midnight. Hey, my bedtime is like 8:30. So.
I'm also past my bedtime now.
And for me, it's Tom's Pizza night. So I still have some stuff ahead of me. I guess I'm in the middle position somehow.
Yeah, I think you're still video editing later.
Yeah, I will be editing it. No, this is unfiltered NSL talk.
Yeah, okay, uncut.
Oh, well, thanks for taking the time anyway. In Arizona, in Belgium. I appreciate it. Let's come to the point quickly. I love to chat always about everything, but this time we have a specific reason actually, and that is the new blocks are coming up. I think we all know that by now, that they are coming. It will be official by the end of January, right? David, you are an IPC delegate, so you can tell us when there will be official, how it came to them, and so forth.
Well, if I think back about the World Championship Indoor in Montreal 2017, there was a request from a lot of teams to change block 1 and block 13 so that the both dive pools became equal, and that's maybe a little bit more easier for a lot of teams to train. And it was a request, and I think Hayabusa, we filed in some proposals in the beginning of January for the IPC meeting and the indoor committee to check, and then eventually they chose 2 out of 6 or 7 proposal that we made. And I think looking back at it, they are very interesting to do. They look fast, although you just cannot go blindly into it, because otherwise you make mistakes. So on paper they look good, but I think in general, in reality, they're a lot more technical than you expect. And but I also want to mention that starting from 2019, these 2 blocks will be going forward officially.
At the end of the month, basically?
Yeah.
Well, after the meeting that the IPC has in Lille, officially. Niklas, did you request the changes?
No, I know David sent me and Airspeed the suggestive 6 or 7 blocks. We kind of looked at them, and I think at the time we were more concerned about training hard and looking at bringing Airspeed back on a more competitive basis with the other teams. And but the 2 blocks that have been introduced, we like them a lot, and they're fun. And I agree with what David said, though, the old 13 and the old 1. The old 13 was very difficult for many teams, even for the top teams, and the old block 1 snow was manageable in the tunnel, but it was also very difficult, and a lot of banged knees and banged heads, and so hey, as far as I'm concerned, I like the new blocks, and I think it's fun for us who's been in the game for a long time to have something new, experiment, play around, and kind of. It's interesting when we go to win games here in the end of the month when we're all competing to see what the other teams are doing.
Exactly.
And even if they do the same puzzle, it's just what kind of small nuances are they doing differently.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. Yeah.
And you have seen quite a few changes, Niklas, especially you. David has been around for a long time too. So we have seen the whole development of those blocks, especially of block 1. So now the dive pool has no cat anymore for the front piece. So at least not according to the continuity plans that we know. Cat's gone for the front piece, isn't that sad?
Well, it depends. I mean, I don't look at it like that. I think for me, every block has its own way of flying, and it's very typical for every piece to fly. I don't mind, or I don't have like mixed feelings about the cat piece not being in the front piece any longer. I don't mind about it.
It just
I mean, but
Niklas?
Kurt, it wasn't that long ago for your age group, leg locks.
Nobody
no
knows
more
what
leg
leg
locks.
locks are.
That's dinosaur time.
But I'm not missing them. I'm missing cats, yes, but I'm not missing leg locks.
Yeah, but hey, Kurt, move to the back piece, eh?
All right,
No, but
okay.
I feel like, you know, it's an evolution. So I mean, we have cats in block 15, and maybe not a cat spinning piece turn, but you know, we have a lot of cats as far as anything else is concerned, you know, in the random work. So I don't think it's is a good or a bad thing. It's just you know, something new and something different. So
I also want to make it clear, Kurt, that it's not because the two new blocks actually now came in the dive pool. It's actually like uniquely from Hayabusa. I think everybody can file in some requests, and I think if the general idea is to change some more, I mean the IPC is always ready for a change as long as it's like in the broader way acceptable for everybody. So it's not as now it was just like two proposals from Hayabusa, but it could have been from everybody, and I think we should still be open for some more changes every 2 years, I think.
What do you think of the idea of having like 50 different blocks and just choosing from all of them that we have ever seen? You know what?
Maybe for
going
people
to
like
that becomes philosophical. I think, Niklas, maybe you can tell us more about the technical part of it, because people will surely be interested. You know, how do we do block 1, the new one? How do we do block 13? So what is your experience with that so far in training?
Well, to answer your previous question there about why don't we have 50 blocks? I mean, for David and I, it wouldn't really matter, but for everyone else, it would matter, because they would to see those blocks once or twice in a season. David and I still see these hundreds and maybe thousands of times, you know? So for us, I mean, it would bring down the average maybe a tad, but we would still be up there far away from everyone else, because this is what we do for a living. So I feel like there's a balance, challenging the professionals, but also keep the biggest body of the community a challenge, but not overly challenged when they don't want to do it anymore. Because if to see all these, I need to do 500 skydives, or I have 100 hours in a tunnel, those are resources beyond regular people, you know. So that's always that balance. But back to the technical aspect of the two new blocks. The new block 1 is directional. It's a molar. It's a cat and 2 side bodies. And one has a spin backwards, one has a spin forwards. So it's not much to it. For us, it's just full speed. The tricky part there is to finish a little bit more than the start, if you don't crash into the finish, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But the 13 is mixed accordions, when you have a compressed and then 2 open accordion grips, and those you can go either way. Either you have to have a tricky start in the beginning where the one center goes over the other center, or you have to have a tricky finish where the one center has to go over the other center. And you just got to pick your poison. And we favor the one where the centers go over first. But it's more technical, like David said, than what we thought.
David, what does Hayabusa prefer?
No, we do the same thing. I think the big change or the big difference can be how would you start. We're still not like 100% agreed on what would be the best starting position, like start of the block. But I think in general, I think every team will choose for that centerpiece to go over each other first.
But I think the new 13 is going to have some sort of consequences also, because if the one center has to go over the other center on the 13, I think a lot of teams are also going to pick that on the 18. Because the more traditional 18, where you have the point and the tail going over first, that's a very fast block, but it's kind of tricky on the finish. And so I think maybe some of these new things we're finding out, only because there are the two new blocks, they might bleed into some of the older blocks and change them, especially for maybe the advanced teams, you know.
Have you tried the finish yet, David? The two-way finish, the fast technique with the immediate catch after the last vertical. Have you practiced that yet?
You mean the block 13?
Yeah.
Well, we didn't do it. We tried it, but it was not the greatest. And then a little bit later, we coached it. And then when you look at it from the outside, you think like that's almost impossible to catch that leg from behind, or at least for the center part. And so I don't know. I think I do have mixed feeling in that mixed block. So I think in general it will be centers over first, and then meeting each other towards the end as well. I think that will be going into the standards.
Nick, do you see also, like on 18 has actually 3 different versions, right? We also have the cogging version. Do you see that coming for intermediate teams or beginner teams also on 13?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I think so. I think you're having, let's say, one of the centers open backwards so the other center can dive through. I think so. But you also actually have, I think, a simpler one where you don't have to have the one center going over the other right away. They can go straight without even crossing paths, kind of like a 21, you know? And then you just have the point and the tail crossover, and then also kind of like a 21, and then finish. So the centers can do 13 without having any vertical at all, which I think people are going to gravitate towards more than cogging it.
So even for the cogging technique of 18 will probably not be an option for 13.
I don't think so, no. On the 18, the only reason why it can't be vertical by the two centers going at it, 18 has to be vertical because there's not enough space in between the point and the inside center for the outside center to fit on the flat. So you have to cog it. But the 13, the outside center can't fit in between the point and the inside center. You have to go straight through without a vertical. So I don't think cogging is ever going to be legitimate on the 13. But hey, I've been wrong before many times.
But there are, David, there will be no adjustments or any changes to be expected. Let's say it is possible actually that you go to the meeting in Lille at the end of the month, and there is a discussion in the committee, and they say, oh, okay, we're going to make a little adjustment here, a little change. We're going to bring options in for block 1, like, optional turns and so forth. Is that possible, or are they in stone as they are now?
I think it's quite official. I'm not quite sure if it's still okay to turn, but if it's possible to turn, I would think, yeah. I mean, we decided as a group, or at least as a committee, to change 2 new blocks, and then at least keep the 2 old ones until the end of the season, and then in the 2019 season, immediately change them. So this way, the community was actually well prepared for that change. And I think if we now allow, and so imagine the teams are now already training. And I think if we now still allow a change, yeah, then we might throw away a lot of like vulnerable or great training time already. So I'm not quite sure if we should be open up that.
But Kurt, I remember block 5 being backwards, and then if they made it optional, you can go forward or backwards. And I feel like those changes are minor, and those changes can happen later on. But as far as right now, block 1, that's what you're alluding to, that is directional. You have to go in a certain direction, and 13 is not. You can go either way. And I mean, yeah, that gives more creative freedom for the people to develop different techniques. But I mean, I'm not crying over it being directional now because I really like it as is. But yeah, maybe. But for me, I don't see that as an issue.
David, you're traveling a lot again. That's why we have to cut it short here today. Well, it's short.
Yes.
You have already talked for a while. But,
15 minutes.
You're traveling. What's your agenda? Your travel agenda?
Okay, so it's now 11:15 p.m.
We lost you a little
and
bit.
yeah, and so 11:15 p.m. here in Brussels, and tomorrow morning at 5 my alarm will go, because I will go to the airport leaving for Prague, and then 2 days later for Warsaw. So I'll be gone for I think 5 days, and then Hayabusa will restart training indoor. I think Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and that's going to be the first training for the new since the new year. We did some training last year already in December to prepare ourselves for the indoor nationals, and but now we feel everybody had a long holiday, a long break, so I think we're eager to restart and start the 2019 season. What is of course mainly indoor. We will not be starting jumping until May, half May 2019.
And Nick, I'm sure you will be up at 5 o'clock in the morning too, but probably running and working out, or
Yeah, I mean, that's what I do. I mean, I wake up early, get my workouts in the morning, go train with the team, and then the rest of the day is kind of unwind and do it all over again the next day. Airspeed, we have like what I think 105 training days scheduled for 2019, and kind of like Hayabusa, we are very busy through April through the Whisk in Lille in France, the World Indoor World Championships, and then after that we're going to start jumping. We might jump in March there right before the Shamrock, but there's still a little bit of a strategic question where we're waiting to make that decision.
Yeah, it becomes more and more difficult to balance indoor-outdoor training, right?
Yeah, I mean, we want to be competitive, and you know, and so, but the tunnel is so easy for us to experiment and work on the things we feel like we need to work on. Once you start jumping, you know, you kind of have to any kind of tweaking you need to do jumping takes a whole day to jump, you know, and the tunnel is used for that purpose once we strap brakes on and stuff like that. But yeah.
And you will both see each other, David and Nick, probably at the Wind Games first time. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we both go to the Wind Games, and then a little bit later, I think in April, we also have a wind tunnel training set together in Belgium before actually heading together to Lille.
Yeah, and we'll be in Bedford before then in early April. Yeah, so
all right.
We'll be spending a lot of time together.
Yeah, we might have some dinner together at the two teams.
Maybe
2 tables apart, staring each other down. Eating competition. Woo!
All right, guys. I'll let you go. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you very much, Kurt.
Thanks, guys.
Good luck with everything.
Yeah, man. Have fun now.
See you guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.